Welcome to the Claim Your Day podcast. Here, it's all about taking full advantage of the time we have today and becoming intentional with our actions so we each can have the impact we want. If you want to stop drifting through life and start directing your life, and you're open to a short podcast from someone who's working at the exact same thing, then welcome. You're in the right place, my friend. Hi, I'm your host, Nick Maizy. To respect your time and so you can claim your day, let's dive right in. Hello, my friend, and welcome. Welcome to episode 33, the Claim Your Day podcast. Glad you're here and joining in. Right now, we're in the middle of a series all focused on habits. Habits, things we do on a regular basis. You know, what we're doing day in, day out, that shapes our lives. It's not always those large leaps or those big steps, those monumental moments that shape who we are. Yes, sometimes in the challenges, our character and our values are revealed, but it's what we do on a day-by-day basis. Those habits, they're shaping our lives. It's what we live. What we live on a regular basis, those habits, that is our life. If you missed any of the previous episodes, you can go back and check them out wherever you're listening to this. You can always go to nickmaizy.com and listen to podcast episodes there. I also have the show notes there for you as well, and some resources, hopefully some things to be able to help you out in your journey to claim your day, make the most of your time, live out your values so that you can live with purpose and have that impact that you want to have. Today we are connecting our habits to our values, to our goals, to what's most important to us. We're going to connect what's most important to the habits that we have and we're developing. Have you ever tried to start a new habit? And maybe you started off with a lot of enthusiasm and only to see it kind of fizzle out after a little while. Well, that the staying power that you need, it comes from that connection. It comes from that connection to your values. Habits, think about it. A lot of times the habits are small. Unless we connect them to something big, it's going to be easy to stop doing them. What's easy to do, those small, simple habits, what's easy to do is also easy to not do. So think about somebody, and this might be you, but think about somebody that is struggling to stick with a fitness routine or exercise. And they struggled with it. It wasn't a huge exercise routine that you're trying to do, but just trying to get into a little bit better shape. And so by exercising some, maybe they struggled with it a little bit. I don't know if that's you, but that's sometimes that's me, where I have a habit, or I'm trying to develop a habit that's really simple, and when it's not connected in my mind to my core values, it's a whole lot harder to maintain that habit, no matter how simple and small that habit is. But I tell you what, as soon as I connect and I continue to connect my habits to my core values, those habits get a whole lot easier to start, to do, to maintain, and to keep on doing them because they're connected to my values. So it's like if I'm talking about, health, exercise, fitness, a whole host of things really, for my values. And as soon as I connect whatever that habit is to my core values, and then for me, I relate it quickly to my kids, my girls, and my family. And as soon as I make that connection, man, I don't care what habit it is, I'm going to keep doing it. But I got to be able to maintain that connection in my mind. Do you ever find yourself, kind of questioning the purpose behind all your efforts? Do you ever find yourself saying, hey, is this really worth it? Should I be doing this? I don't feel like doing it. It's not that, is that really that important? You find yourself questioning the purpose behind your efforts, behind the habits, behind the things you're trying to do, then this is a big, loud call to you to connect what you're doing to your values, especially these habits. Habits a lot of times are boring because we're doing them day in and day out. We got to connect them to our values. You understand, the underlying reason, understanding the reason why you're trying to have that habit, and connect it to your values, your goals, what's most important to you. So it's gonna give you a few things. It's gonna actually help you a lot with the motivation and the staying power that you need to really solidify that habit and to maintain it. John Maxwell talks about, why. Why are we doing things? Why is it important? When you can hone in on your why and connect what you're trying to do to a really big why, like your values, your goals, your mission, your purpose in life. When you do that, it's gonna, connecting to that why, it's gonna be that purpose that's gonna fuel your motivation, and it's gonna help sustain you through the challenges. See, connecting to your why and your values will give you that purpose. And that purpose is going to fuel your motivation, and it's going to help sustain you through the challenges. Well, that sounds like something really good. Having some motivation, being able to push through those challenges. Well, in purpose and connecting to your why and your values is going to help you with that habit. So start to think about that. As we continue to go forward to this episode, start to think about how your values or how your habits, what you want to start doing, what you want to maintain doing. Start thinking about how they connect with your values and what's most important to you. As John Maxwell says, if you know your why, you can endure anyhow. When your why is big enough, the how really doesn't matter. So how can you consciously choose habits that reflect your core values? Think about this. How are the habits you're trying to live out, to start, to maintain? How are they reflecting your core values? Once again, you're connecting them to a lot bigger, more meaningful, impactful, significant thing in your life, like your core values. That's gonna develop that intrinsic motivation. We call it intrinsic motivation. That's that motivation from the inside. Yes, you might want to, like I say, get healthy for some outside reinforcement or some outside motivation. But when it comes down to like your health and being able to have more energy, and live more fully for your kids and your family, well, all of a sudden, that's something deep down inside. We're talking about connecting your habits to your why, your core values. And making sure those habits reflect your core values, not only connected to them, but have them show through, have your core values show through in what you're trying to do. And then you also can link your habits that you're trying to start to your long-term goals. Your long-term goals. Now, yes, your long-term goals should also be connected with your values. But if you want to add a little bit more power to those habits, then you can connect the habits that you're trying to start and maintain to those long-term goals that you have, and see that direct connection between this habit that you're trying to do on a daily and weekly basis, how it is actually step by step getting you closer to achieving those long-term goals that you have. This could be, a simple thing you can do for this is visualization. Is actually see in your mind's eye, see how that tiny habit is contributing to you achieving your big goal. How is that tiny habit that you're maintaining helping you to get closer and to make progress toward that big goal that's really important to you? See it. See that connection in your mind. See how it's helping you to get closer to your goal. See how it's connected to your core values. Really expand on and clarify why that habit's important to you. See, these 3 simple kind of tasks and things that you can do, that's going to add more power to that habit. That way, when you don't feel like doing that habit, because that's gonna come up. When you don't feel like doing it, your why, your values, and your long-term goals, they're going to step in and say, but look, this tiny habit that you're trying to do, it's connected to your why, your core values, and your long-term goals, my friend. You can do that tiny, small habit. It's just today. You can do it just for today. Just for today, you can do that habit. You can repeat it. You can maintain it just for today because it resonates with your big why, your core values, and your long-term goals. All of a sudden, it's not that bad. All of a sudden, that habit that you don't feel like doing, that you know would be good for you, it's not that big a deal when it connects with your big why, your core values, and your long-term goals. See, and the closer that you can align your habits with your why, with your core values, with your long-term goals, the closer it is, it's no longer a chore. This is living out your purpose. This is that purpose-driven action. You want purpose, you want meaning, you want significance, right? Right? Well, when you connect your habits to your big why, to your core values, to your long-term goals, then those habits are helping you to live out your purpose. And they won't be as big of a challenge. They won't be like chores. The more that in your mind you see that connection with that tiny habit, with those big, big important things, all of a sudden, it's not that big a deal. And you doing that habit, when you live out that habit and you maintain it, that is guiding your life to go forward in a meaningful way that reflects your values, and you can have the impact that you want to have. You can claim your day and make the most of your time because you're aligned your tiny habits, the small daily actions, with the things that are most important to you. So here's the action step. Here's the action step for this episode. All right. What is your why for this habit that you're creating through this series? Originally in the first episode, you went through and you looked at the area of life that's most important to you to start that habit. You zoned in on the tiniest small habit that you can just start, just to get the ball rolling, develop a little bit of momentum, and let it grow. You got that tiny habit. Now, why? Why is that habit really important? Expand on that. Take that tiny habit that you're working on and ask yourself, why is developing this habit important to me? How does it connect with my values, my long-term goals? And write your answers down, expand on them. Get really crystal clear. And expand on it as you're writing it down. Why that habit is important to you, how it connects with your core values and your long-term goals. And when you need a little bit of a boost, when you're not feeling like doing it, either look at that note that you've written on why it's important, how it connects to your values and your long-term goals. Either look at that or rewrite it when you're struggling. It doesn't have to be long in paragraphs and all that stuff, especially when you're rewriting it often. But the more that you're doing that, you're solidifying in your mind why it's important. And those big whys, those core values and those long-term goals, they are far more important than any little bit of discomfort for that small habit that you're trying to develop. And if the small habit you're trying to develop is more of a pain than your big why, your core values, and your long-term goals, my friend, then the tiny habit you're trying to start is not tiny. It's too big. And then you can go back to the last episode where we talk about making that habit really small. Because that really small habit, it's going to be easier for you to get started, to get some quick wins, some small wins, some motivation, some momentum. It's going to be easier for you to maintain. So make it small enough that when you think about your big why, your core values, and your long-term goals, that habit is so small, so simple, and so easy, you just knock it out. And before you know it, it'll be a habit, and you'll just keep doing it. So connect with your why, because that why can really, that why gives you that purpose that's going to fuel your motivation, and it's going to sustain you through those challenges. All right, my friend, I want you to take action on these habits so that you can claim your day. Making the most of your day and doing that on a day-by-day basis, it's going to help you to live that life that's fulfilling, on purpose, for your purpose, and to be able to have that impact that you want to have, living out your core values. That sounds awesome to me, and that sounds awesome to me for you to be able to live out. I want that for my life, and I want that for yours too. All right. Well, thank you for listening to the Claim Your Day podcast. Glad you're joining in, but make sure you're taking action too, because that's what this is all about. Being able to move our lives forward in the direction that we believe is most important for ourselves and our families. That's what I want for you, and that's why it's this episode and this whole podcast is here for you, for you to be able to do that. If you enjoy these episodes, please rate and review, Subscribe so you don't miss any of them, especially as we do a lot of series. Don't want you to miss one in the series that might be able to be impactful for you. And you can always go to nickmaizy.com. You can listen to the episodes there, as well as have some resources to help you to claim your day. All right, my friend, take care, and can't wait to talk to you again in the next episode.